When you see this picture, what does it say to you? What thoughts or words come to mind? Do you think it's a prehistoric time or maybe from a present day time? They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I'd say this picture represents the world's dirty little secret. A picture that gets overlooked, even laughed at. I mean, it is a cartoon, right? And there is no way when you look at this that you would think it's something that could ever really happen. I mean, that's what makes it so funny, right? Okay, so do this. If you would, replace the picture of the woman who's being dragged with a picture of a woman that you love. Your mother, your sister, your daughter, your auntie, your cousin, your wife, or maybe even you. Then when you look at the picture, what would you think? They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So what is this picture actually saying here? It says to me that domestic violence against women has been acceptable since the beginning of time. See, you may be surprised to know that skulls of Stone Age women have been found to have been battered and bruised, suggesting that women during this time were susceptible to violence. Now, whether that is violence at the hands of their caveman husbands or violence at the hands of someone else, violence against women goes all the way back to the Stone Age. And I'd venture to say that even in this modern world we live in today, that we find women right now battered and bruised in the very same way. Domestic violence is not comic relief. It's real. And pictures like this are indicative of just how much we have accepted domestic violence. Our culture has made domestic violence acceptable. Now, many of us, when we think of culture, we think of ethnicity and race. But what we need to understand is how culture is really defined. Culture is defined as any environment that promotes a specific behavior or outcome. We have not been paying attention to the culture. How do I know? Because images as simple as this just promoted violence against women. What you saw as comic relief, I saw as an invitation to violence. And in a world that prides ourselves on being so sophisticated, and we love the fact that we can solve the world's greatest problems, we are simultaneously ignoring one of the world's biggest, greatest, and oldest problems. Domestic violence is not a locker room joke. Every 9 seconds, a woman is beaten or abused. By the time this TEDx talk is complete, about 80 women will have been victimized in this way. About 1 in 2 women will suffer psychological abuse. So if I were to split this room right down the middle, it means half of you ladies will be or currently are at least in a psychologically abusive relationship. The soundtrack for that, you dumb, you stupid, oh, you so ugly, be glad I put up with you. Are you a caveman or are you human? Domestic violence is the world's dirty little secret, with about 35% of women worldwide suffering from physical or sexual violence in an intimate partner relationship in her lifetime. I'd say this is the pandemic that no one wants to talk about. A pandemic is an epidemic that occurs worldwide, crosses international boundaries, and affects a great number of people, with women outnumbering men in about 125 nations. And 1 in 3 of these same women worldwide suffering from domestic violence. I'd say it's a pandemic for sure, by definition. In our country, we fight to protect what we love and value. We've gone to war on drugs, on obesity, on the environment, on the climate, and even to protect animals. To do nothing about domestic violence is to perpetuate the problem. To look the other way and act as if it's not your problem is to perpetuate the problem. Our culture has promoted domestic violence. Culture is an environment that promotes a specific behavior or outcome. Let me give you a cultural example. When our children are young and they sneeze, we teach them to cover their what? Their mouths. Yes, domestic violence is no different. When we hear or see domestic violence situations, we are unconsciously taught to cover our eyes. It's not my problem. That's between them. He seemed like such a nice guy. I can't get involved. You see, you can be a caveman in 2020 just as easily as you could have been a caveman in the Stone Age. And it's not until we decide that we value and love women enough to build a culture that will protect her and not just do what the caveman did in the Stone Age. Oh, it's the secrets. The secrets that, not just the secrets that she keeps, but the secrets that the world keeps because we refuse to take a visible stance against it. With about 50% of domestic violence situations ever being reported to police, it means that there is a world of women who are suffering in silence. We have become destigmatized in our culture to domestic abuse, which is why pictures like this can be funny. Culture is any environment that promotes a particular behavior or outcome. We have celebrated violence against women in our music, in our television, in our movies. We have built an entire entertainment culture around it. The only way to perpetuate anything in our society is to build a culture around it. We have fought domestic terrorism. We fought international terrorism. When will we fight household terrorism? We just left a presidential election season. When was the last time you saw a presidential campaign use domestic violence as part of their platform? I'll help you out. Never. We have gone to war on so many things in our country. When will we have the war on domestic violence? You see, our delayed responses only increase the negative effects of the pandemic. More women will die, more children will be traumatized. And her son, he's 10 times more likely to become an abuser himself. And families will be destroyed. So if it's not your problem, it must be her problem. So what is her outcome? Fear. Fear is a common outcome and response that a woman may have when she finds herself in a violent relationship. And this fear is strategically used by the abuser against her to promote coercive control. The unique thing here is that this very same fear that he uses actually has a gift to offer. The gift of fear is courage. See, you do not become courageous just because you do something hard. You really only become courageous when you do something in the face of fear. Leaving a violent relationship is not easy. Many women may stay because of fear of the unknown, fear of what he will do, fear of what you might say, fear that she cannot make it on her own. Some may think that the goal is to be fearless, but if she is fearless, she will lose the capacity to gain the most precious gift when walking away, courage. And she needs a culture that will not continue to use debilitating fear, but instead stand with her courageously. Do it for the culture of women who do not have a voice. Do it for the culture of women who will not make it out alive. Do it for the culture of young girls right now that think abuse is okay. Do it for the culture of young boys who will become abusers themselves. Do it for the culture of women that you love that are suffering in silence and you don't even know it. If you cannot do it for yourself, do it. Do it for the culture. Now, you know that I'm a domestic violence expert. What you may not know is that I also have a law degree. Okay, so I have watched a few episodes of Law and Order, and I paid attention with my TV JD and told what I've learned. If you assist someone in committing a crime, you become a co-conspirator. So if you look at images of women like this or hear of domestic violence situations and you turn the other way, if you hear people speaking degrading words about women in your locker room or in your living room and you say nothing, you become a co-conspirator of abuse. Stop being a co-conspirator of abuse. If you cannot do it for yourself, do it for the culture. These 80 women that have been victimized since this TEDx talk began need a culture that loves and values her enough to stand courageously and not just repeat the behavior of the caveman. What started with an image was perpetuated by culture that ends with this. What image do you want the next generations to have? If you cannot do it for yourself, please do it for the culture.